So what you do is you get a good coating of flux on it. And we're using the mini torch. So you just heat the flux until it melts. So right now, the water is burned out of the flux and it's gotten white and crusty.
Mm-hmm.
So you just take it a little bit past that. Do you cook?
Yep.
Do you caramelize onions?
I have.
Okay, that's exactly what it looks like when you get the onions to cook down, and then you get this wonderful kind of a glaze on the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as far. A few more times, but a lot came off. But it's hard to see if you're not used to looking for it. When it's this subtle like this, it's harder to see.
Gotta love that automatic torch slider.
Is that the best thing ever?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, I know.
So much safer than those little flicky things.
I've heard stories about people having those things blow up in their hands.
Yeah.
And so again, we'll just heat it. So we'll do this as many times as it takes to get all that oxidation off it, or what is actually firescale. So again, you don't bear down on it, you stay away and let the heat come up gradually through the whole piece.
And keep that torch moving, huh?
Yeah, because you want even heat saturation. You don't want it to all happen in one place. So I'm just going to put a little more flux right back here.
You can see how hot it is.
Yes. Well, you want everything to come up evenly. You don't want any hot spots, because what you could wind up doing is burning the metal and creating more firescale rather than getting rid of the firescale. So I'm just heating it up to the glaze, till the flux melts and turns into a nice even glaze over the entire surface. And when the flux melts, it goes just dead flat on the surface of the work. See how it's kind of, can you see it's shiny and flat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what has to happen before the flux fully activates and before it's doing everything that you want it to do. See? Yeah, that worked better. So,
into the pickle it goes.
And this has to happen 6 or 7 times.
And that's water you're rinsing it in?
Yes, I'm rinsing it in water, but it's getting brighter.
It is. You can see, especially on those lines, huh?
Yeah. So, and I guess I'm trying to narrate, when I do this, when I do a lot of silver work, I like it when I have 5 or 6 projects to do, because if I rotate 4 or 5 of these through, it's in the pickle longer. And so the pickle has more time to react, and the acid actually collects up copper ions. And so that's what we're doing here. We're trying to get the copper off of it. So when a piece turns black like this, that's copper oxide, cubricoxide, or what some people call firescale. And this is a heavy piece, so it takes it a few minutes. I could use a larger tip, like this one.
Rosebud?
Yeah, it is technically a rosebud. They just call it a melting tip in this world.
Oh, okay.
The welders call them rosebuds.
Yeah, I have one of those rosebuds. They come in handy for hollowware.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're great.
Or casting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So every time you do this, more of the firescale comes up, and the flux is formulated to hold copper ions off the surface of the sterling. And then when you put the piece in the flux takes in the pickle, the pickle takes the flux off. So gradually you get more and more copper out of or off the surface of your work.
Did we say how many times you'd repeat this?
Well, I usually tell my students 7 when they fabricated a ring, and sometimes it's enough, and sometimes we have to do it another couple times.
This looks like more metal than a ring would have.
This is a lot of mass. This weighs almost an ounce.
Wow.
So I'm doing this next thing. I'm going to go ahead and put the larger tip on it,
Okay.
so I can make it happen a little quicker. But you can see the flux is melting. Okay. Do it again. So I'm going to change the tip out, which people might want to see the difference in how it works. But it's the same kind of flame. You just have more of it. It's coming up a little bit each time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. You can see those lines and scales now.
Yeah. See, so it's starting to bleach out really nice. And
Well, let's show them how nice the big rosebud is. Or, I'm sorry, the melting torch.
either way. But you use a fairly soft flame, a neutral flame, not an oxidizing flame and not a carbonizing flame, a neutral flame. And this gets a lot of heat all over the piece real fast. But you hold it out here so you don't overheat it, so stay off about 3 or 4 inches.
Okay.
So this is called fine silver depletion, and what we're doing in a piece of sterling like this is we're depleting the copper out of the surface of the work, and the copper is what makes it look black because the copper has burned. Fine silver doesn't oxidize. It's always the copper, and that's true of gold alloys as well. 14 karat and even 18 karat, when a piece turns dark, it's because there's just enough copper in it where, let me make sure I got this right. Yeah.
Oh, and when working with a torch, always use all your safety equipment.
Like what?
Oh, glasses, ventilator, if you need them. Okay. So, we'll join you when you're done repeating it and we're a little bit brighter.
So you can see the reflection off the white paper towel onto the surface. That blemishing that was on the earlier frame isn't there anymore. That means that the surface of the work is copper free. So you may notice that in this process, I haven't lost any detail. I haven't had to go to the machine and work it down hard. And that's what's great about this process, because all the detail you work into your silversmithing, you don't wind up over polishing with white diamond Tripoli or red diamond, and the most unfortunate thing. So now I'm going to walk straight over to the buffer, and when we come back, I'll explain to you what wheels I'm using. So what's happening on this casting, you can see there's a shine or a sheen in the wings, and that's because of the waxwork. I polished the wax before I cast it, so I don't lose detail trying to finish it. And once you know the rules how to cast and how to mix your investment, when you get your castings out of the investment and get it rinsed off, you should be able to polish it on your blue jeans. You don't have to go to white diamond or platinum rouge. So that was just another thing. So I'm going to go over this just real lightly so you can see how fast it comes up. And again, this is not losing any detail because I didn't have to sand and grind the firescale out of the surface of the work. And it's an old model, and some people are resistant to it, but you really don't want to cave into that unless you have a whole bunch of extra time on your hands. But I'd rather take that time and go play and ride a motorcycle than spend time polishing something. Now I'm going to go to the next finer grit. So these are 3M radial brush discs, and I can't believe how slow I was to come onto these things, but they are so efficient.
You got a great buffer there. You got multi-speeds and everything.
Yeah, 2 speeds. 2 speeds makes a difference. And I just tell people, if you can afford it, or if you can't afford it, wait till you can. Get a 2-speed motor, because you can actually burn your work with a buffer by having it spin too fast. The fine silver depletion brings all the copper out of the surface, and so this will never get that dark, blotchy gray look, which is from copper being left on the surface. And what I mean by copper is copper oxide, cubricoxide, or just basic firescale, because that's all off of there now. So this will stay white forever.
It looks great.
There we go.